Turning to new remarks from the top of 60 Minutes, Scott Pelley has now decided to come out and speak on camera. He had issued a statement after his unusual firing by CBS News as those MAGA clashes continued, and he was very clear about where he stands on the newly or relatively recently installed CBS boss, Bari Weiss. Pelley said she was murdering the show. He also says that she was doing something that involves bias, where she wanted to engineer more friendly coverage for Trump than what the actual independent journalists found from their reporting, and that Weiss almost derailed Pelley's report on the ICE shootings in Minnesota that killed Renee Good.
Bari Weiss sends an email to my boss, Tanya Simon. Two of the things in the email include, can we make the protesters look more violent? Now, I'm paraphrasing. I don't have the quote, but that's what was communicated to me. And the other thing was Renee Good's car. You need to describe her as driving toward the officer. This is not what you see on the video. The video showed that the officer wasn't standing in front of the car and she wasn't driving toward him, but that's what the president said about that, and that's the way she wanted it described. There was a thumb on the scale for the president's version of events that I felt was a level of political influence that I had never seen in 37 years at CBS News.
That is significant. This is 37 years. This is the top of CBS, their most prominent anchor, one of their clearly currently, until he was fired, most prominent members of 60 Minutes, which is their flagship program. And he has receipts, he has evidence, he has it in writing. And it's not saying, hey, let's make sure we cover both sides. Let's consider what Donald Trump had to say, which, by the way, is a natural part of balanced reporting. No. He alleges quite specifically, and says he has the receipts, that they were asking to mislead the viewers about the actual facts of the story about a woman who was killed by the government, by federal officers, and to essentially, he didn't use this word, but I will, he is alleging that they wanted to frame her, to suggest that she was trying to murder with her car when she wasn't, and she's the one who was killed by the government. So this isn't one of those things where you say, oh, reporters, they get so dramatic, and it was just another workplace dispute. You can see why Mr. Pelley, who has the credibility of all those decades of reporting, was concerned when the request he was getting was to frame up or mischaracterize or make look bad this recently deceased, killed woman, this woman who was killed by the government. Now, that is very serious. I mentioned how reporting works. We will report for you exactly what the CBS management that he's criticizing says. They deny these allegations of interference or political bias, including in the piece that Pelley is describing. So that's both sides of that. But you're talking about Ellison, the new leader, and Weiss, who they put in charge, Paramount under this pressure while they want to get favorable treatment for their merger. Ellison wants and needs approval for the big deal, way bigger than CBS, which is the entire Warner Brothers movie studios, CNN, HBO, all of it. Now, Trump has continued to go after 60 Minutes even when they got the new ownership, because that's pretty much his habit. He also got a $16 million settlement from Paramount over the news division's Kamala Harris interview. Pelley being very clear that given the weakness of that case, it really came down to editing, that he viewed it as a bribe.
The very last thing that the previous ownership did was pay a multi-million-dollar bribe to the president to settle this frivolous, ridiculous lawsuit. And very shortly after that, somehow, the Trump administration approved the sale.
Paramount denied that those two things were linked, that payment and then the deal going through.
He was also asked about this manager who is seen as so close to the MAGA side, Bari Weiss, and what about her leadership?
Do you think Bari Weiss needs to be removed?
Oh, gosh, yes. I do think that we would be far better off without her. Maybe she goes back to the Free Press and has a sterling career. But this is like somebody walking up to me and saying, there's a 747. There are 400 people on it. We need you to fly it to Paris. I'm going to decline because I don't have a clue.
Pelley discussing her lack of experience. She and her allies argue that she has media experience running a newsletter and writing about the media. Pelley's point, and this has been echoed by more than one CBS veteran, is that the actual structure of international television news is different, and that in her time on the job, she showed very little interest in learning about that. That's their allegation. One of the other remaining 60 Minutes correspondents, Leslie Stahl, says her decision to stay shouldn't be viewed as an endorsement of the current management that you just heard criticized, and calls all of the oustings and firings the worst experience of her long career. This is a story that goes well beyond CBS or television media. It is about, at least according to Mr. Pelley and others inside CBS, how the government can worm its way into the free press, no pun intended, even in 2026 in the United States, but also how people can speak up and do something about it. Joining me now is Molly Jong-Fast, New York Times contributing writer, MS Now analyst. You know your way around the media. It's really striking to see someone of Scott Pelley's level calling this out. Here he was, something else he said I haven't played yet about the interference.
My hope is that the leadership of Paramount will say to themselves, okay, this isn't working. We have broadcasts that almost don't get on the air. We have respected journalists saying that there is a thumb on the scale for one political party over another. They don't know what they're doing. And there's a subtle political bias that I've never seen at 60 Minutes before, and so, or at CBS News before.
So this is a guy who is torching a 37-year career at CBS News. And so the question is, why is he doing it? And I think the answer is like Walter Cronkite, right? He's taking this risk. He's doing this thing, and he's doing it because he sees that Bari Weiss was not brought in to run CBS. She was brought in to kill CBS. And that's what we're watching happen. And so I think it was an extremely brave move. And I think the reason it's getting so much attention is because people can see that it's real.
Yeah. And the example he gives where they wanted to make this deceased protester and driver look like she was trying to kill a cop. First of all, anyone who does that knowingly is potentially committing defamation, which is a long way from telling a story or telling it well journalistically. It's the other extreme. Yeah. And that's the pressure he said he resisted. And he is telling the story that he resisted those type of things over time, but now reached his breaking point.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is so meaningful. This is like an old school news guy. And for him to come out and break that fourth wall and talk about what's happening in the newsroom, as you and I both know, you see very little of this. And there's a reason for that, because these organizations are usually pretty private about how things are run. So you have to realize, like, he's come out like this because he saw things that he was really shaken by. And when you listen to that interview, what you hear is a person who is very shaken by what Paramount is trying to do to CBS. And I think he's trying to appeal to corporate's better angels, if there are any, which I'm not convinced there are.
Well, as a New York media insider yourself, how do you think this is viewed in the upper rungs of CBS, where the people above the new management or the ownership structure, like David Ellison, they wanted to get certain things. They didn't want to pay this kind of cost.
Right. I mean, look, this is billions of dollars running. It still has to make money, even if they want to make it Fox News Light. And the reality is, Fox News Light, as we know, as Fox News knows, that's not for anyone, right? The Fox people don't even like it when Fox isn't foxy enough for them. So I think that it's not for anyone, so I wonder how successful it will be. But I also think that when you look at this, you see, like, is there someone above Bari Weiss who can say, like, this is not what we wanted? And I don't know what the answer is. But
or that they wanted something warmer to the current government, but not framing dead people.
Right. And what I think is interesting is that they were, they lost 3 correspondents, and they were able to convince the other 3 to stay. So the question is, there was clearly some worry.
Yeah, and what are they promising? And do those folks, following Pelley's example, say, we'll try, and then we'll hold the line? You may end up with no one, which is why it is different when people have some voice and willingness to fight. I want to show you were just at the Tonys.
Yes.
Did you have fun?
I did, and actually what you were talking about in that tease was really interesting. People wanted to talk about politics.